Hey Patriots, September 27th, J6 updates, news, and chat. And I don't know if you know, but Joe Biden can draw large crowds at the border. How's it going, Patriots? Rain finally stopped around here and got to get outside for an update. So we might as well get like right down into it here. Okay, the vigil last night started off with, well, we got Trooper back. Way to be back, Trooper. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for coming back, man. Hi, Sherry Thomas. Hey, Jerry. How you doing, man? Did you make it to DC yet? It's like, we got to get back there, but you don't really want to. I don't know. Lots of other stuff to be doing, and I really wish this country wasn't in the shape that it's in, man. I really wish things were better. So we'll just keep plugging along, man. We got a good team. I think we can get, you know, any number of Patriots all activated. Hi, June Dalton. How you doing? So news came out that if you ever heard of a group called the Sedition Hunters, that they are a group of people that have been going over video footage and then doing investigations into it and running down people's faces and stuff, and then coming up with potential prosecutions for the FBI, and then they submit all their information to the FBI. Well, it's turned out that apparently they've had access to this secret video footage that Kevin McCarthy's been promising to release it for since he became the Speaker of the House. And like, how did they get it? How did they get it? I'm hearing that they're at like a DHS front group or something now. And all this is very shocking. I'm a guy who's really close to the J6 issue, and I have been for a year or so now, a year and a half. And some of this stuff is like news to me, man. And it's just shocking. The more you learn. Hey, Jay Jones, how you doing, man? Hi, silly for him. How you doing? And, you know, how did they get this information? I think Gateway Pundit did an article about it. Man, I can't remember. I forgot to write down where I saw that. But anyways, it appears that Sedition Hunters has had access to this video footage for a while, and they're helping the FBI out. And I just want to know, where is law enforcement? Where is law enforcement in all of this? Where has been law enforcement while Hunter cheated on his taxes, threw a gun in a dumpster, buying crack? Where is law enforcement in this? And then we get this group, the Sedition Hunters, and they like just hand the FBI convictions on a platter, and then FBI takes it and runs, like they don't even do their own work anymore. We got to do the prosecutions for them or something. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. The more I learn, the more confused I get. So I hope you're all doing well here. And I was wondering, I don't know if I could do like a brief synopsis. There's some people that I know have subscribed to my channel that aren't familiar with the whole J6 scenario. And I think if I could try to put it into a nutshell, it goes like this. The election in 2020 was a fraud, and we knew it was a fraud by the morning of the day after the election. Donald Trump had major leads in a lot of these key states when we all went to bed that night. And on the election in 2016, we knew when we went to bed that Trump had won the election there, okay? He won it by a narrow margin in 2016, but the point is that they weren't expecting him to win that. So that whole 4 years that Trump had as a president came unexpected to the deep state, who has all these agendas out there, the World Economic Forum and all that. They got these agendas. They're called 2030, Agenda 2030, and they got all kinds of names for it. They write books on it all the time. The elites think they know best for us. And so when the 2020 election happened, we all woke up the next day and went, wait a minute, what just happened? And then they weren't even declaring the winner yet. They made it go several more days before a couple of the states could actually declare who won in that state. So we all saw evidence of a fraud that happened. In addition to all the sickness that was around back then, you remember that? And in Pennsylvania, we changed our laws, our election laws. Our Supreme Court changed the laws, and they're not allowed to do that, but they did anyways. And so we had all this mail-in voting. There was people who reported bringing truckload of ballots into Pennsylvania from New York. And then they just smeared that guy, Jesse Morgan, all, up and down. And then he's been exonerated. He did run a load of ballots from New York into Pennsylvania. They came right into my town of Lancaster, where he dropped the trailer off and he lost track of it. And all kinds of shady stuff with that Jesse Morgan story. So I'm assuming that truckload of ballots, and this was in October, so this was way ahead of the election. That truckload of ballots made its way to Philadelphia, where a man named Howard Richardson works at a J6er named Howard Richardson works at a polling place there. And he went to where they bring all the precincts ballots into count, and he saw truckloads, two pickup trucks that came in with boxes of ballots in it. And he was like, hey, what's up with that? What's up with that? And the guy does a burnout and leaves. Doesn't get any questions. Some big lady comes around and starts saying, what are you doing around here? You can't be here. And he goes home. So we saw all kinds of election fraud. On January 6th was the day. And then we clamored for almost 2 months between the election in November 2020 and January 6th, 2021. And we wanted investigations. We all contacted our representatives about it. We wanted to have this investigated. And the media just buried as well as they could. And so on January 6th, all of our look at the evidence that we were all screaming about. And lo and behold, that's when windows started breaking. That's when they found two pipe bombs. One at the DNC, one at the RNC, which is 2 blocks down the road from the Capitol, in a highly secure zone. I mean, when you go walking, when you just take a walk through that area, Army guys come out of the building and go, can I help you? And they walk you along. You can't even walk through that neighborhood without like a police escort. It's crazy. There it is, silly. You're gold. It was Gateway Pundit then. Or maybe not. Maybe that's not the article. But anyways, lo and behold, at noon that day, before Trump's even done talking, there's people like breaking down barricades on the outer perimeter of the Capitol. So you got the Capitol building, you got the pavement around it, and then you got the lawns around it. So apparently there was bike rack barricades on the outside perimeter of the Capitol. Those started coming down before Trump was even done speaking. They find the pipe bombs at noon. And then a mass crowd starts walking from where Trump was speaking at near the Washington Monument. It takes an hour to walk to the Capitol from there, almost. If you're my age, it takes you an hour to get there. So the barricades came down. People started filtering into the lawn. Then there was more melees at the edge of the pavements. That's where things got violent, and that's where people like Ray Epps started whispering in people's ears. And all of a sudden, 7 guys are standing there pushing these inner barricades at the police, knocking them down and stuff. There's 30 people standing there, but everybody's not participating in this melee. And those barricades come down. And at one instance, I watched video footage of the police were holding off a crowd there. A cop comes in and shoots a tear gas canister that's kind of a dud, doesn't go as far as he thinks, into the wind. It blows that side of this border, and the police just fold. They just start walking away from their posts. It doesn't matter. They're getting tear gassed. There it is. This is the article I'm talking about, Gateway Pundit. Apparently they had access to that stuff. So anyways, the cops tear gas their own guys. That front collapses. They start lobbing flashbangs out into the crowd. So you got a crowd of people right up against the barricade, and they're getting unruly. So the cops line up right there, and instead of addressing those people right in the front that are getting unruly, they start lobbing flashbangs into the crowd where there was just peaceful people there, man. There was grandmothers there, there was grandfathers, there was children back in that crowd. And then in the front of the line, I've seen many instances where the cops are beating on women. Okay, so you got women and men in this crowd. The cops, on a lot of it I saw, unless a guy directly attacked a cop, he didn't get beat. But I'm seeing these women that walked right up in front of the police. They were just standing there, and the cop would take a shield and just bash them. In which case, some of the men in the crowd got up and got in that cop's face, and there was problems then. But that was those were instigated cases of violence against the police. And I'm convinced, man, that 80% of all the encounters with the cops were instigated with them. So in a nutshell, it was a setup. It was a setup. And eventually people got right up next to the building. Once the cops retreated again into the building, there was no police presence on the outside of the building in a lot of spots. People got up, kicked windows out. All of a sudden, doors magically opened from the inside. I saw pictures of people smashing windows with a hammer, and people in the crowd are going, Antifa, Antifa, because the Trump people don't do that. We don't do that. We never have, and we never will. That has never happened at a Trump gathering before. And furthermore, at all the Trump gatherings before that, there were groups of, people call them Antifa. I don't know what they are. They're just troublemakers that showed up at Trump rallies for the 4 years before that would cause problems and cause violence and beat down Trump people as they were walking along. So the whole thing is a setup, folks, and we're still getting to the bottom of it. In the cases that have gone through the courts so far, there are many instances there where the FBI had to admit, yes, we had undercover people there. So what were they doing? They were undercover people that came in with the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, and there was undercover police officers there that's come out in the court cases, and we're still getting to the bottom of it. The FBI guy has testified that they don't even know how many FBI guys were in the crowd that day. So due to the government just making a mockery of this whole thing, we're still getting to the bottom of what actually happened on J6. I don't believe that the Trump people started that violence there. There was violence there. There was very little violence there. There was 0 dead police on J6. The police managed to kill 4 patriots that day. And due to negligence, one of their own officers died the next day because he was having a stroke and they didn't render aid to him. So here we are. So far, after many calls to my congressman, all right, over 964 defendants all right, here's what he says. As I have, this is my representative, Lloyd Smucker. He is in Pennsylvania, House of Representatives, 11th District, Pennsylvania. Thank you for contacting me to share your comments regarding the treatment of individuals in custody for their alleged involvement in the events of January 6th. I'm going to skip 2 paragraphs. As I have stated repeatedly, the violence that we witnessed on January 6th is unacceptable and not who we are as Americans. Okay, I got to agree with you, Lloyd. We are not violent, okay? But what we are as Americans are exercising our free speech by showing up in Washington at great expense to everybody that was there to stand up and say that election was rigged, okay? And that we want our representatives to take either not certify that election or take a 10-day investigation into it. So I agree with you, Lloyd. That is not who we are as Americans. Law enforcement agencies are continuing to investigate the events and have arrested over 964 defendants. Okay, so this was in April of this year. At least 165 of those individuals have been charged with assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers and employees. Okay, so 964 arrests, 165 of them, they were actually charged with assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers. So that leaves 800 other ones. What were the other 800 people charged with? And these are the people that you saw that were ushered into the Capitol building, walked around and left and didn't do anything. He's just seeing what I think the news told him, all right? And he was obviously there that day too, on the inside. So he's probably gotten word. I don't have his explanation, Sylvia, so I'm not sure. But there's 800 people that were charged, but they weren't charged with assaulting or resisting. They were just the people. When I came home that night, man, there were people walking between the velvet ropes. I mean, they were just peacefully walking through the Capitol because they thought they were allowed to be there because cops held doors open for them. When they got there, the barricades were down. They didn't realize that they just walked through 2 levels of security to get into the building. So each of these cases is being prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia in accordance with the federal rules of criminal procedure, whatever that is, okay, we assume we have a set of rules. I appreciate and support all of these efforts. And then I got an email from him lately where he expounds on that, where if the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia has violated this principle, then it will have committed a grave constitutional crime and should stop this practice immediately. All right, so does that mean they're not going to get prosecuted if they committed a grave constitutional crime? I mean, I have trouble talking to these representatives because I don't get their lingo. I don't get it at all. And he said the same thing in this email that I can't look at right now because I'm doing a live stream. I think we were tricked. We know better, but we were tricked. My mama taught me to stay out of trouble. Yeah, my mama taught me to stay out of trouble too, but I was allowed to be in D.C., we were allowed to stand and listen to our president, the sitting president at the time, speak. We were all allowed to come together and say, hey, this weird shit happened in my precinct. And people from all over the country had evidence of a screwy election. In addition to the whole COVID thing, that was just beyond belief. And that was the first time they hit us with the sickness, man. So, that's not a very small nutshell version, but J6 was a setup. The election was rigged, and the the DOJ, of the illegitimate administration that's in office right now, has been prosecuting their political enemies to no end. To no end. They are still arresting people here in September of 23 for what they perceive as crimes on J6. When a lot of these crimes are just, you walked onto Capitol grounds and you might have refused to leave. There's 1,000 people standing around. And a cop says to you, you got to leave. And you're like, well, there's 1,000 people here. I got to leave. So anyways, it's a quagmire, America. It's a quagmire. And if there was any type of an insurrection at all, it was the Biden administration scaring the shit out of our representatives, making them all go down into the basement there. There was very few weapons found. I mean, you don't show up for an insurrection with bear spray and zip ties. And a lot of these people found zip ties laying on the ground. They found police shields laying on the ground. They left these things out knowing that people were going to pick them up. As soon as they saw a grandma getting bashed with a police shield, and you look down and like, hey, there's a baton, of course you're going to pick it up. There were movies, there were... Hold on. Papers are blowing away. There were camera crews all over the place set up. There were camera guys that were following people around. They were ushering people into the Capitol, into certain areas. I'm sure you've all seen the QAnon shaman guy, Jake Chansley, the footage that Tucker Carlson put out. I mean, that was just one instance of where 3 cops literally led him to where he said he wanted to go. He didn't know how to get there, but they led him into there. And I saw that happen on a bunch of different scenarios. And everywhere that there was a big thing to film, there were camera guys standing there. When Jake Chansley walked into that area, there was a camera guy standing there, right, waiting for him to get in there up on the balcony, man. How did that guy get in there, and how come he's not an insurrectionist? He was there before any of the other guys got there. So all this stuff was planned. It was filmed. I wouldn't doubt if they hired a Hollywood producer just like they did for the J6 Commission. That sham thing they put on TV like a year ago, man. And then they burned all the records for it. They didn't even enter all those records into the National Archives. So, I mean, something's going on, America, and everyone can feel it. Everyone can feel it. And I think I got my finger on it. I mean, I think I know. But I'd like to see law enforcement stand up and investigate this. So far, they all just... They won't even touch it. They don't want anything to do with it because the illegitimate regime that's in power right now is in charge of their paychecks. So right now, they're talking about the budget. And they do this dance every year about the budget. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff here. Why hasn't Nancy's daughter's videos not been? Where's that documentary she was working on? You can get on YouTube right now. Watch the LA Times photographer going all around the Capitol, inside and out. Washington Post, man, you can get on YouTube and see this stuff. So why aren't those guys in jail? If everyone that was there was parading or whatever. Several of the J6ers themselves are media people. They had media companies and they were there filming it, but they got arrested. So I don't know. Jay Jones, Menendez, you don't think he paid the 10%? I think he did pay the 10%, but they needed another distraction from Joe Biden. Once again here, Joe Biden was caught 2 days ago with a $250,000 wire transfer to Hunter delivered to an address that was Joe Biden's address. So they needed a distraction, okay? That's what they do. Anytime something comes out that shows Joe Biden in a bad light, something else comes out that distracts from that. So the Menendez thing came out, and the Trump declared fraud in New York. What's this case? Never even heard, out of the blue, a judge in New York declares that Donald Trump is guilty of fraud because he underestimated or overestimated the value of some properties. And I've already seen digests of that where it is just total malarkey. But you can just have a judge declare you're guilty of fraud. And that's not a justice system, people. That is a broken justice system. And Hunter supposedly had a California residence when that money was delivered. So my guy Lloyd, he's on the Ways and Means Committee, which means he is in charge of offshore bank accounts. So in another correspondence I had with him on later, he emailed me back, and it was a little more clear, and that he's on it. But it's about damn time, Lloyd. It's about damn time. All right. Property valuation. It's not out of nowhere. It's a 2021 New York. I can't keep up with it, bud. I can't keep up with it. So when you're building skyscrapers, you got to come up with a value of what your assets are, and the bank has to agree on that value so that they can loan you money that doesn't exceed that value. I mean, I'm no real estate genius, and neither are you, bud. Neither are you. I don't know, man. All right, if you were there, people should have just gone home. You just spend $1,500 to get to D.C. and rent a $350 hotel room to hear your president talk, and you just say, oh, we'll just go home. You go walking up to the Capitol and you start hearing flashbangs go off, you're just going to walk home. You're full of shit, man. You go walking up there and you see some grandma get bashed 3 times with a police shield, you're not going to just go home, no. Something's up. They were let in. That's exactly it, Jay. The barricades collapsed. The police pulled retreats. When do the police ever retreat? When do they ever retreat? I think that is the first tactical retreat that the Capitol Police have ever done. And nobody had arms. Nobody had arms. They all had body armor because they were expecting Antifa to show up and attack them. But where was Antifa? There was no Antifa there. They were all dressed up like Trump people. It's obvious, man. It's obvious. In addition to and coordinated with undercover FBI, undercover military, undercover Capitol Police, undercover Metro Police, undercover Park Police. Park Police actually escorted the people down to the Capitol with motorcycles. I mean, this was a coordinated effort. They planned on it for a long time. And I don't know if this is true or not, but the jail in D.C. was condemned. They just got it all fixed up like a couple of months before J6, man. And they didn't even do a good job at that because, as you know, the Marshal Service inspection of the D.C. Central Detention Facility found inhumane conditions, including standing pools of sewage and lack of access to running water for bathing, which led to infections among some prisoners. So my guy Lloyd, he even knew about that then. As a result of the findings, 400 inmates were being transferred from the facility to the federal penitentiary in Lewisburg. 400 inmates got moved out of D.C., and then they put our J6ers in the other half of that jail that was the medical facility there. So this was a planned insurrection, only it's not the Trump people that insurrected. It's the government that you're all thinking, the government now that's sending billions and billions and billions of dollars over to Ukraine, the government that pulled out of Afghanistan and left $85 billion worth of equipment on the ground and 13 Marines. The same administration that's sitting in this White House now, that's keeping this border open for 2.5 years. We got 10 million new illegal immigrants here. Illegal aliens, I should say. And we are fighting against that. We are fighting against that. Because I know this administration is illegitimate. And it really sucks to stick your head out and say this stuff, because I know I'm next, okay? That's all there is to it. They got all the J6ers. They're still arresting people. They got 2,000 more names they want to go after on J6 that were at the Capitol on J6. So I'm sure there's a whole nother list starting up. And all of us people from Freedom Corner are probably on that list. I mean, it's risky. It's risky, but we got everything to lose if we don't stand up and defeat this enemy. This enemy of America. Because this is an enemy of the United States of America. So, you know, man, that's the biggest nutshell version I've ever done on anything so far. I almost need a cigarette after that. All right. So other news that has come out. Other news that has come out is the FBI agent who investigated Trump-Russia hoax during the first 2 years of his administration, when he did win the election, has been arrested for colluding with Russia. So let's see how that law case goes out. So here we got a comment. The New York Times article about Trump's property valuations won a Pulitzer Prize. So what? Didn't Barack Obama win the Nobel Peace Prize? These prizes are nothing. These prizes mean nothing. These prizes are deep state inventions that they award to people who are super crooked. I don't care if the New York Times won a Pulitzer Prize about anything. Who cares? They're liars. They've lied to you over and over, and you're probably still reading it. You're probably still paying them to read it. Everybody involved with this fraud case, from what I'm hearing, was paid. The banks were paid on time. There is no crooked stuff. They just declare it. It is rewarding to go to Freedom Corner, but look at what's going on, Jerry. All right, who is this guy? Pert Sherson. So this guy knows all about Trump. He kept 2 sets of books, one for the banks, another for the taxman. Okay, dude. Okay. Yeah, you're just... Go back and read the New York Times, okay? This isn't the New York Times crowd here, bud. And you say you were at J6. All right, so they're coming for you too then, man. Whether you did anything or not. Yeah, Trump hires accounting people. Pled guilty. Oh, he pled guilty already to that, huh? Okay. FBI special agent who investigated Trump-Russia collusion to plead guilty. Oh, he's going to plead guilty? Okay. Let's get this in here. And no charge of double book. So we got a shit poster, folks. All I know is Joe Biden did get 81 million votes, man. And the only place Joe Biden draws a crowd at is the southern border. Period. We just watched that whole election go down. Joe Biden has 6 reporters sitting in circles because of COVID. Trump's got a whole stadium full of people 3 times a day in 3 different cities. Oh yeah, now they're losing their mind with road rage incidents, okay, in Tampa. Federal prosecutor. They're losing their minds, and they're going to start lashing out. So I think it's going to get very dangerous. We are not violent people. We like law and order. We like peace. We like security. And I think this is about to get ugly because we have all these overlapping law enforcement agencies and nobody picked up the election fraud. Very few people went to jail for violent, a lot of people did go to jail for fraudulent ballot harvesting and stuff like that in the various states. Media didn't report on it, but there have been cases of that everywhere. A guy here told me that in Flint, Michigan, there's almost as many people on the voter rolls as there is in the whole city, and that's impossible. You got children, you got people who can't vote, people who don't vote, and you're telling me if you got 100,000 people in your city, you got 100,000 voters? No. There is still rampant corruption. Our elections are still rigged, and nothing's going to change on 2024 unless we do something about it and get it changed, get it fixed, get the machines out of our voting booths, man. Pennsylvania has been saying about that for decades, and there's still computers in there. Hey, Sapphire Patriot, how you doing? Just catching up on the chats there. And then we got a guy named George Soros running around this country. Has a lot of money. He's like a billionaire. And he's donating money to all these campaigns and he used to donate money to like big campaign guys. But lately he's been going into governor races and district attorney races and things like that, and getting people elected all over America, when countries like Russia and Hungary and Pakistan and Turkey and Poland and the Philippines have banned George Soros from their countries for doing just that. So why do we keep a guy like that running around here? Is his billion-dollar wealth that influential with the people that we have in power that they let this guy, this foreigner, I don't even think he's got a U.S., I don't know if he's a U.S. citizen or not. He wasn't born here. He's crooked as hell, and he influences all these elections, man. So why do we even let him? All these other countries ban him. It seems like they're pretty smart at keeping the countries out. Poland's a pretty good country, man. They don't have a lot of the problems we have. They don't have an immigration problem. They're not having violence problems in Poland. Poland knows how to make their people happy, peaceful, and prosperous. So I think we know how to do that, but for some reason our elected officials aren't doing it for us. And then we got all these Republicans that are just not lining up behind Donald Trump, man. They think that they can win an election. They think that we should be looking for alternatives to Trump at this point. And I'm not thinking that's a very bright idea. I mean, we should have people in the pipeline, and we don't because of just bad leadership from the Republican Party. But Trump's the only guy that gets stuff done. So That's who I'm behind. I'm behind guys who can get results. When I go to work at a job or something, man, I want to see a boss who knows what he's doing, not some bumbling idiot who just lets the whole crew go do whatever they want because he just wants to sit in his truck and talk on the phone and watch videos. No, I want a guy who's in there with us, building stuff. So that's Trump all the way, man. I watched him do it for 4 years while the phony Russian hoax was going on and the 2-year Mueller investigation was going on. While all that was going on, Trump still got a lot done, man. Still got a lot done. This wasn't last night, but 2 days ago, I saw Matt Gaetz on Maria Bartiromo's show. And Maria is a World Economic Forum graduate, okay? But so far, she's been pretty cool. But she started going after Matt Gaetz, and Matt Gaetz put her right in her place, man. That was something nice to watch. And then, of course, we got this 14-page memo from the White House to media companies that tells them how to respond to inquiries about Joe Biden impeachment. So we have instructions to our government state media that we have here now, which is just like what Hitler did and what communist regimes do. You can't have a free media in those types of governments. So right now we have a government state media that takes commands from the White House, from the CIA, from the DOJ, from the FBI. They banned the sitting president of the United States on Twitter while he was the president. That just happened. And nobody batted an eye. That was another instance where we all should have just dropped Twitter like a lead balloon and it would have been noticed and they would have corrected it right away. But no, we didn't. We wanted to stay tweeting, or not me, but you people on Twitter. All right, now one of you turned me on to this guy, Will Johnson. He's on Rumble. And he was reporting on the 11,000 illegal aliens that came in one day. This was 2 or 3 days ago. And I've been watching this guy a little bit, and I kind of like him. So thanks for turning me on to the Will Johnson show on Rumble. So anyone, the Republicans, we got to band together around Donald Trump. We got to figure out who is with our program, and our program is that election was rigged. The J6ers are being illegally prosecuted. Are they going to stand up and do that? So we need the J6 pledge that Helena and Suzanne got on their website. We got to make sure whoever we're going to back or fund to run for our Republican spots are on board with this. Otherwise, we're not being cohesive enough, like the other side is. The other side's cohesive as hell, but they are driven by hate. That is their just method of operation. They hate. There's Will Johnson on Rumble. And some of them guys, you know, they do, I don't watch too many of them because they do a 2-hour show on 5 minutes worth of news, but I do see clips from them. I watch more shows that show clips from Bongino and, you know, all the Jack Posobiec and stuff. So it's just, I don't have enough time to watch an hour-and-a-half news broadcast with each of these guys. But the left, they are driven by hate. That is their thing. They hate us. They want to hurt us. They are hurting us. They're actively backing programs like leaving the border wide open that is killing us, literally. Pulling out of Afghanistan, killing us there, killing our people there, killing our comrades that were in Afghanistan, the people that got stranded there that were helping us while we were there. Killing off the people in Ukraine, man. They're killing us. And they back governments that don't support Christianity. So why do we let our government give money to people that are killing Christians on the other side of the world? I mean, really, Tucker Carlson has a good talk about this. he was speaking at like a church or something about his Episcopalian beliefs. There we go. There's the J6 pledge. That's a thing you can, if you got a guy who wants to run for office, hand him this thing and say, would you sign this? And if he doesn't, forget about him, because he's not going to back you up on what we know to be true here. But the regimes that Obama gave money to were killing Christians in Syria, in Iraq. The Ukrainians are persecuting the Christian church there. I don't think Christian churches in Russia got anything to worry about now. That they're not they're not the USSR anymore. I mean, they got freedom of religion. I do know Christian churches in China still have a problem though. And that's a regime. So why do we let them take our taxes, our money that we give our government to operate, and then to give it to people that are persecuting Christians throughout the world? I don't want to participate in that. We are driven by love, okay? We are Christians. We are good people. We believe that you should not do harm unto others. You should live and let live. And as long as you're not hurting people, you should have the freedom for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As long as your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness doesn't happen to involve harming other people or preventing them from having the same. So that's where it gets weird. Oh, I thought that was John Fetterman, man, but it's not. Okay, so I didn't even get to the, oh man. All right, so this is turning into an hour-and-a-half show on 5 minutes of news. Let's get to the vigil last night. In case you missed it, at the vigil last night, we got a phone call from Matt Da Silva. They talked about good prayers, people who pray good, who can pray well, good prayers. And Dwight is one of them, man. He can put out a good prayer. Matt Da Silva, first name that came to his mind on the J6ers inside the prison was Shane Jenkins, man. Shane Jenkins is an amazing Christian. He has had a rough life, and just like all of us, he's made mistakes in the past, I'm sure, but he has repented. He is in full faith that his Savior can save him, and he looks to that Savior every day for guidance. And then Shane also started that God Wins USA thing. And it's just good to know how to pray. The more you do it, I mean, you can pray in your mind, you can pray by yourself, but when you can, try to pray with other people, and you can get better at it. I like to try to imagine that I'm talking to my king, okay, because he's my king. So if he's hearing my prayer, I'm speaking to my king, okay? And I take a lot of guidance from that by how people talk to the kings in the Old Testament. Like, just look at how they spoke to their kings. At first it seems a little odd, but then you realize these guys were kings. They could just tell a guy right there, cut his head off, and that's the power that they had. It wasn't necessarily good any time, but justice could be really swift too. I mean, when Solomon, the two women came to Solomon with the one woman's baby died, and they both had babies. The one woman's baby died in the night, and they both came to Solomon and accused each other that the only baby that was left between them was theirs. And Solomon said, all right, cut the baby in half and give each one a half. And then the one woman went, whoa, no, just give it to her. And Solomon immediately knew that was the real mother. I mean, that's wisdom. Kings had wisdom back then. And there was a reason that they were revered and, borderline worshipped as the kings of their kingdoms. So that's what I try to imagine. I'm speaking to my king. I try to, just speak well. And it's going to be good practice, because one of these days we're going to be speaking to our king, people. We're going to be speaking to our king. Another thing that came up yesterday, there was a guy who I never even heard of before, a J6er named Edward Badalian, who got a sentencing yesterday, and he was sentenced to 51 months. There was no violence charges. There was no property damaged. He's a 29-year-old dude from LA. I think he was friends with DJ, the guy that was in DC for a long time and doing the phone call, organizing the phone calls. And he got sentenced, and while his judge was Amy Berman Jackson, and she was going on a thing where she was talking, and somehow or another she was misrepresenting what Edward Badalian said, and he interrupted her several times, and it turned into a yelling match. So Edward Badalian was kept in custody, and he was not released to go home to wait for, I don't know. It's confusing. But Edward's gal was there at the vigil last night, and she spoke a few words to the people in the live streams at the front there, and it'd be good to go back and try to hear what she's got to say. She's pretty broke up about it. She's just a nice woman, and her life has just been turned upside down right now by this illegitimate regime in the White House. Chris Quaglin got on, said thanking us for our letters. He is totally getting a shaft. Court's not reporting on their daily minutes. You're supposed to be able to follow these court cases, which would involve being able at the end of the day to go to a website or somewhere that you can find out what happened today in the court. But they don't post these things on any regularity. It's very hard information to do. And when you're trying to follow a multi-day or multi-week trial, it gets very difficult if they're not posting that information for us. They're supposed to be doing it, they're not doing it, and it gets really hard following these things. So I looked up some stuff on Chris Quaglin today. I watched an episode of Sovereign Souls, which is Mel Holly's Rumble show. And 7 months ago, she talked to Chris Quaglin. And I kind of got reacquainted with him because I kind of lost track of Chris Quaglin there for a while. He was very familiar with at the beginning. But he's the guy, he can't eat gluten. If he eats gluten, his belly swells up and it's very, very painful. And they were just kind of saying, yeah, this is gluten-free cream of wheat. And he would eat it and his belly would swell up and he's in pain. Then he would get mad and bad things would happen. He was threatened by inmates in front of the guards. He was moved like 8 or 9 times up to 7 months ago. So he's been moved even more. And every time he's moved, he loses all his discovery, all his evidence that he's accumulating for his trial. McFadden is his judge, so if you want to make a call to Judge McFadden and say lighten up on Chris Quaglin or whatever, I don't know if that would be effective at all. But so Chris Quaglin was given the opportunity to plead guilty to 3 felonies. Wait, let me make sure I'm talking about the right guy here. And he didn't plead guilty to 3 felonies. Okay, here's Badalian's info. Sentenced to, I thought it was 51 months, yeah. And according to my notes, he didn't do anything violent. No violence and no property damaged. So I don't know how you can get 51 months, even if you broke out 10 windows. How do you get 51 months out of that? I don't understand. I just can't understand it. So Chris was given a chance to plead guilty to 3 felonies. He refused to sign those papers because he didn't do those 3 felonies. So since then, that was a year and a half ago, now he is looking at 14 felonies. When I looked at his records in the DOJ website, which is very hard to read, very hard to figure out what exactly they're saying, at 3 different instances, they came in and stacked on more felonies onto his case. So I don't know how they just come up with stuff. Another guy, they're just fabricating charges on these guys. I mean, it's so obvious. Another guy who's really taking it hard here is Ryan Samsel, man. I looked at a couple of his stuff. He's the guy that was seen with Ray Epps during J6 on some of the footage up by the guardrails and stuff, up by the bike racks when those were coming down. And Ray Epps was whispering to people. So he's one of them guys that's kind of been close to Ray Epps, and he got beat so bad they had to take one of his eyes out. He lost an eyeball because he got beat so bad. And Jessica Watkins, who was another J6er at the DC Gulag, saw him the morning when that happened and said his face, his head, you couldn't see his eyes were like slits. He couldn't even talk. They just beat him up. They zip tied him and beat him about the head until he was darn near dead. Probably was unconscious. And then 5 hours later, Jessica Watkins saw him. And they surgically removed his eye at the hospital later. And as far as I know, I don't even know if he's got sight in the other eye. He was beat up. Then they moved him to Northern Neck, Ryan Samsel, and he was beaten twice more there. They put him in a chair, some kind of a discipline chair. They're allowed to make people just sit in it if they're being bad, like the bad chair. There's a limit, a legal limit. You can't leave somebody in that chair for more than 4 hours. They left him in there for over 12 hours. Yeah, his eye was surgically removed there, fig out. And then there's Jake Lang, man. Jake Lang got beaten for singing the national anthem, okay? They would make the prisoners march to an area or whatever, and they would march to that area, but they would sing the national anthem while they were doing it. Well, they told him to shut up, and he didn't. He continued to sing the national anthem, and they beat Jake Lang up for singing the national anthem. So, I mean, these things are atrocious. Our prison system is atrocious, man. It is not a system of reform whatsoever. And that's what I always thought prison was supposed to be. When I was growing up, I thought you were supposed to, learn how to reform in prison. I grew up with the story of Joseph in the scriptures, where he was sent to prison. It wasn't his fault. Somebody lied. He went to jail. But everywhere he went, he would just become the prison guard's helper. So I thought prison was supposed to reform people, but we do not have that at all in this country. I don't think that's a healthy scenario. So the courts aren't reporting the daily minutes. I don't know what we can do about that. I guess we're just stuck with these clowns and these judges in these courthouses. I don't know why my guy Lloyd Smucker doesn't realize why all these cases are being tried in DC. We've been wondering why there is no change of venue the whole time. I mean, they are totally backlogged and stuff. You would think that some of these cases would have been farmed out to other courts that might have ability to try them, but they wouldn't get guilty convictions in there because they don't have that wonderful DC jury pool that they have at this courthouse. Yeah, Ted Nugent. All right, but here's the scenario with Ted. He's a great patriot, man, and he's got his own scene. And imagine being Ted, okay? He's a little late, Mr. No-Show to Convoy. Yeah, he didn't come to the convoy. But if he did come to the convoy, the whole thing would be like about Ted Nugent. I can understand why he doesn't come to these things. And he's fighting with us. So I say we don't get divisive with these other patriots just because they don't come and join in our battle. We got a multi-front battle here. We got J6 going on. We got the border. We got the war in Ukraine. We got the oil, the economy. I mean, let's not get divisive on Ted Nugent. I mean, it would be cool if he came down, but he would take all the wind out of the whole J6 thing, I would think, because Ted Nugent's there, you know, with his zebra striped Bronco. So I don't know that, you know, getting on Ted about that is the right way to approach that. And I'm really not into like splitting ourselves up. Ted is a patriot and he's on our side. He's a God-fearing American and he loves America. So yeah, I wish he would come to the corner and just hang out for a vigil. That would bring a lot of attention to it. And maybe that day will come, you know. I mean, the Lord is laying out the path here, so maybe that day will come. There was a day when there weren't any representatives coming to the corner, and then all of a sudden George Santos shows up. The next day, Matt Gaetz shows up at the vigil. Those are the first two that I know of representatives that came to the vigil. Marjorie Taylor Greene and like 2 or 3 others toured the jail now twice, and that brought attention to it. So, gotta see, man. It's the Lord's timing. I know it seems like it's taking forever, but we're exposing the wickedness. They aren't going to get away with this forever. That's for sure. Also at Corner last night, Ron J. Spike has got a new song out. And he kind of did, what do you call it when you don't do music? He just sang it. It didn't have any music with it. And it's a collaboration with another guy, but I'll be looking forward to hearing that. He also performed Chains Off, which is that video he did with Sapphire Patriot in it. If you haven't seen that video, that's pretty cool. Ron J is a fixture at Freedom Corner, man, another great American. And he's got his voice, and, you know, it's not the stuff I put on when I'm having a party, but hey, man, he's on our team. I'm all for it. Yeah, Louis Gohmert was there when Marjorie Taylor Greene went the first time. What else? Jeff Sable called in at the end of the night, as he always does, right before the anthem, and he's been in jail for 32 months now and hasn't had a trial. So these are the things that I'm hoping my guy Lloyd, I hope you know about this, Lloyd, because like you say, if they violated these principles, then they will have committed a grave constitutional crime and should stop this practice immediately. Well, they've been doing this practice for 32 months on Jeff Sable, and nothing's being done. So I think that's what we elect you for, bud. I think that's what you're in office to do, is to make sure this doesn't happen to people, to Americans. Jeff Sable is from Colorado, and he's a great guy, man. Every day he's calling out to the vigil with some news and some chit-chat, and who hold the phone up while the guys sing the national anthem in the prison every night at 9 o'clock. Everybody sing the national anthem where you are at 9 o'clock. Show some support for the J6 movement. I mean, this is a movement, man. When else have you ever seen anything like this in this country happen? It's just outrageous. It's outrageous who's sitting in the White House right now. He just fumbles every day, you know, had people exposing their breasts in the Rose Garden at the White House. It's just endless, the amount of wickedness that is involved around this family, Joe Biden and his family. Yeah, man, Ron is one of us, buddy. He is. Okay, and then we got a milestone coming up on October 3rd, we think, is the 1,000th day since J6. So what we're all going to do is go into mourning. We're going to mourn. So a bunch of us patriots, we're going to wear all black that day. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do that day, but I got to bring some type of attention to it, to the knuckleheads around here who are still hitting the snooze alarm. So I'll figure something to do out that day and hopefully stream it for you guys. I'm thinking of going into my downtown area here because I can do that. There's also a couple other things I'm thinking about doing. So, and hoping to bring along a live stream when we do this. So October 3rd is the days of mourning, and what else? October 10th would have been Ashley Babbitt's 39th birthday, I think. 38th birthday. So we're gonna go lay flowers at the Capitol again. And I hope what happened last year when we did that doesn't happen this year. I hope some people can find some respect, some honor to allow other people to mourn their way without having to desecrate the way that they mourn. It was a heinous act that was performed on the people that were mourning for Ashley Babbitt's death, murder at the Capitol last year. And that was a horrendous, demonic demonstration of what they represent, and that is hate. That is nothing but hate. There was no legitimate reason for that person to do what they did last year. So what happened last year was we laid flowers at the steps of the Capitol and walked away from them, and somebody walked up there and trampled on them and scattered them and kicked them all over the place. Just mashed them all up, man. We laid flowers out on the step. They would have laid there all day. Everybody who came to the Capitol that day would have seen those flowers. And then the grounds people would have cleaned it up at the end of the day. But no, somebody came in right after we were there. And I'm not even going to name their name on this thing because they got no respect out of me. They get no publicity out of me. That's a demon scum that needs to go back to hell where she came from, man. And that's that. So I think we finally did it. I'm not going to try nutshell versions anymore because they set me off on stuff. So I'll try to have a little more plan. And I'm just realizing how difficult it is to come up with like a daily thing, like Matt Da Silva every day. He comes up with something to talk about for 15 minutes every day, and it's not easy. So I'm enjoying the challenge to it, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. I hope you're getting benefits from it. You know, I hope this is helpful and not just a waste of time for everybody. And I'm going to keep trying to do it. I'm trying to get regular with it. I know I skipped a couple days there in the last 2 weeks, but I'd like to just have this be a spot that if you're hanging out, right, at the end of work, whatever, and you want to get a pulse on what's going on, that this might be a spot to come to find that out. I know the Trooper had a little chat during the day today. That was pretty cool. He used to do that quite a bit, and that's what we're doing, man. I know we got Turbo Cummins. He's got a chat going a lot of the times, and we just got a network now. So that's what we got. We don't have mainstream media anymore, but we got each other, and we got a network, and we got Trump, and we're going to get him back in office, hopefully before 2024. So in the meantime, folks, I'll see you in the chat at Freedom Corner tonight. And this is Jericho, over and out.